Hello, Johnny and Jason, or Ri and Dwarf, as most people on the TaleSpire Discord may know you. It's really great to have you both on this little interview. We're going to discuss a little bit more about Bouncyrock, what were your previous project, and how TaleSpire is going right now. Trying to focus more on the people working on the project more than on the project itself for the moment. So could you present us to what your current roles are and the other persons in the team that help you and we may not know about?
Sure. I'm not entirely sure how to describe what I do on the project. I guess I do a little bit of everything, and do a lot of the like front end stuff that people see and interact with. So the all the feely stuff, character movement, and building systems and all of that stuff. I also work as like the technical artist and do the business side basically. So I'm going to let Jason introduce himself, and then we can talk about the rest of the team.
Sure. I do some of the art, music, sound effects, and lately I've been lending a hand with customer support. That's kind of my roles on the project. As you can see, there's a trend here. We all wear many hats. So as a small team, you kind of have to.
That must be really interesting. So you presented yourself, but I assume that there is other people working in the shadow. So go on for that.
So we have primarily 3 other people working on the project. So there's Chris, who goes under Baggers, and he's probably the most active on sort of like the public relations side. So he's the one who does all of the updates pretty much and keeps really active in the community. And he's our lead programmer, I guess you could say. He does all of the backend stuff and he makes sure everything runs really smoothly. It's also the one that's probably most sort of dedicated in roles. He's the only person who doesn't sort of do art on the team, but he's also incredible at doing the stuff that he does. So we're lucky to have him. And Absolutely. Then we have Hannah and Rachel, and they're both artists on the team, and they're also putting in really good work on. And that's a lot of the assets that we've seen since the Kickstarter come out is, especially on the environment side, has been theirs.
Okay, that's awesome. So we're like 5 person working on the project. So that's really, as you said, a lot of hats for each person. So most people know TaleSpire through the amazing Kickstarter campaign of June 2019 that went wonderfully, but few might know that Bouncyrock started actually more than a decade ago as a modding group for Neverwinter. Seems I can trace you back on the internet back to 25. So can you tell me more about how it all started for you both?
I guess I could start with this one at least, because we've it was at the time it was Jason and I who was doing content for Neverwinter Nights, and I remember starting doing basically custom models and things like that for Neverwinter Nights, and we ended up releasing early creatures. There wasn't a lot of people in the community during the Neverwinter Nights 2 cycle that were releasing creatures because they were quite complicated to do. So I ended up making a beholder, because there wasn't a beholder in the game by default, and it's such an iconic creature to have in a Dungeons and Dragons game. So I figured that was a good place to sort of start. And that was around the time when I met Jason, who was working on Miserystone at the time.
Okay, yeah.
And we sort of joined forces and started making stuff.
Yeah, he's got it right. I mean, from my perspective, I remember it kind of started. Obsidian Entertainment ran this modding contest, and basically this module contest, and it was based on the Grimm brothers fairy tales, and I ended up winning the contest and had to do an interview with this Neverwinter Nights podcast thing, and the girl at the time who interviewed me, she had a boyfriend who lived overseas who was a really good artist, and she showed me some of his stuff, and it blew me away. So I was like, wow, I need to work with this guy, and that's kind of how we met up. And then from there,
that's funny.
Yeah, and then from there, we started, like Johnny said, working on a large module called Miserystone, and that's kind of how it all started, man.
And that's funny. It means that you both had quite an artistic package already in 25, and that since then it's been like a really well working cooperation of artists and many friends. I reckon been a solo since quite a long time, so I suppose you must know each other quite well, and it must be really a fun enterprise to have started TaleSpire now.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And when I actually started, I wasn't a traditional kind of 3D artist at the time. Johnny was really the artist. I was more just like a module designer, working with the tool sets and things like that, and making adventures. And he would, he was involved in obviously supplementing them with his fantastic models. Like he said, not a lot of people were pushing out the content at that kind of level of quality, and it really caught a lot of people's eyes, and Bouncyrock became kind of a household name in the modding community for Neverwinter Nights.
Yeah, exactly. Like looking back at your Neverwinter modding scene, it seems Bounce, as you called it quite a few times at the time, or Bouncyrock now, was quite popular at the time. And your mods like Halloween 28 events, and the most of all the most well known, which is in Ravenloft. All of your mod have been very well received and show really true craftsmanship and interest towards making stories and pushing really the creation tools that were given to you at the time. And the question really is, how can you get like one talented artist and another talented mod artist and make a story with Teletubbies and Daleks for Halloween?
Yeah, I think when it comes to the Teletubbies and the Dalek thing, I think that's my fault.
Yeah, that was great.
Because truly at the time it was Jason was the genius behind module making. So I didn't do a lot of that initially, and he was also the one that set up the Halloween module itself, because it was a community project where people would submit their modules, and people would then go trick and treating in this hub world that Jason set up, and then when you enter the house, you would sort of load up a new module. And one of those was the one that I created, the whole Teletubby thing, but there were also several. I can't remember exactly the number.
Oh man, there was a lot of them. I think 15, maybe 15, 14, 15 different houses you could visit, possibly even more.
From what I've seen on the mod, like 1 or 2 weeks ago when I was researching this, that there were at least 15 different modes incorporated into the bigger Halloween event mod. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. It was a really interesting thing, man. We were really ingrained in the community, and that was actually something like I would say like an Amnesia fortnight away from Miserystone for a while, because that was such a big project, and it was something fun to kind of distract us and kind of bake in some of that community, just bake in the community interaction and things like that. And a lot of people did a lot of creative modules for that. That was probably one of my favorite projects. to ever
it seems
do.
to have received a lot of praise. But what's most awesome to see is that I have date 2 years later. You've released Miserystone, so maybe a bit sooner, but internet at this age is start to be quite old, so dates are maybe not correct on my end. But Miserystone seems to be one of the most loved and appreciated mod for Neverwinter, and there is still people playing it. Like I've found people playing it like to this date on YouTube and stuff like that. So it seems to be one of the magnum opus of Bouncyrock and Neverwinter. So can you tell us more about that?
Sure. Yeah, it was a long project, man. And we I've always been very interested in Ravenloft, and I think I was going to make a module called the Rogue, and I was trying to get this really dark setting for it. And I remember the atmosphere that I was going for. I started making the module, but I think I was making an exterior area for that Rogue module, and I was like, oh man, this just seems like it belongs in Ravenloft or something. And that's kind of like what started it right there. And Johnny got right on board and made this amazing. I remember him making this amazing like kind of splash screen that looked very similar to the Ravenloft. To the Ravenloft kind of titles and things that you would see on the old modules, and right there I was just, okay, that we got to do this, man. This is incredible. And during that time, we brought on a few different writers. I mean, people. It was one of those projects where, again, I was trying, bringing in some people from the community that we know, and we had we had a programmer, I forget his name right now, Code Monkey, I think, and a guy from Scotland, and we plugged in some new like journal systems for it. It was a large project, man, and we had an overland map. Johnny, of course, was making a ton of custom models for it, and after I think the thing took maybe the better part of, I'd say 3 to 4 years, maybe. Yeah, I would say something like that. And you know what? I mean, I still think it's unfinished. It really is. It's not as well balanced. There's not as much story as I would like. It was kind of like a playground to me. I was really getting into and enjoying making areas and sculpting kind of terrain inside of their tool set. And so I made this overland map and had to fill it up with areas. And so I was just playing around with that, and it was like kind of like a nice relaxing thing to do. And it blew up, and I had so many areas to fill with. Now I have to fill it with content and story and stuff. And it was a very large project, and it was I think towards the end, him and we got together with another we actually started making an iPhone app, and it was like, okay, this other app is this is new and exciting, and Miserystone, even though there's been a lot of work into it, we definitely need to release it. So I released it a little early, probably earlier than I should have, but I'm thinking that with now that we got TaleSpire, I might try to down the road do it justice and make a maybe an official module or something like that for it.
We could redo the whole campaign and scenario in TaleSpire at some point. That would be a nice setback to that time, actually.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I actually recently found all of the old Zbrush files of all of the old characters.
Nice.
So we do have access to all of that old content in a format that we could
amazing.
Do like a small Miserystone-esque module or something in the future.
Yeah,
and the content pack, that would be really cool.
Yeah, that'd be true Bouncyrock history at that point, like, because 25 like internet years, it's like in dog years. It seems so long ago, but it's really nice to find traces of that. And regarding of looking at the past, I've dug a little bit to Twitter's account, looking for clues of questions to ask, and I've seen that already in 2014. Johnny, you were looking at the Kickstarter for Dungeon Forge, who sadly did not succeed, but it seemed that already in 2014 you had an interest in games that where players could shape their own pen and paper adventures in a digital world. Since how long was the idea to make such a type of game? What was in your mind, really?
I think ever since playing Neverwinter Night Persistent Worlds. So, and we're talking the first Neverwinter Nights, which is where I actually played, where I probably I played Neverwinter Nights 1 a lot more than I played the second one, to be honest, because the second one was basically where modding happened. But in the first one, there were persistent worlds and this idea that you had dungeon masters and they would go in and you would do stuff and you would actually have cause and effect from those things. So that was all something that I personally, I think Jason also wanted to create at some point. So that's been since when did Neverwinter come out? Like 2002?
Yeah, 22, 22. Sorry.
Yeah. So it's just been a matter of sort of when would we be ready for doing something like that? And after having done like a few projects with this idea of just finishing something, or we have to make something that's small enough for us to sort of be able to just release something, we never felt as passionate about any of those projects as we did just modding for Neverwinter. At least that's how I feel about it personally. So when we started playing around with this idea of doing this board game type thing, because I'm pretty sure it was Jason that sort of started talking about doing this board game aesthetic. And then the earlier screenshots that we see on Twitter is from early experiments of that before it turned into a virtual tabletop.
Yeah.
But even prior to that, there were experiments done. I did like this Minecraft thing where I was hoping, okay, that would allow people to be creative, but then have almost like a role-playing system in there to encourage parties and having a dungeon master and things like that. And none of those projects really worked out. And there were different reasons for that. But one of the really appealing things about the board game aesthetic was that it checked off multiple requirements for us to be able to do this as a small team. One of those things being producing assets and stuff quickly, because we need a lot of content, obviously. So yeah, it's been a long time, and it's been fun to sort of see other projects pop up and sort of trying to do similar things, and but it hasn't seemed like any of them have worked out that well.
Well, that's actually a perfect lead to my next question. Because now that we're playing and using TaleSpire in closed beta, it seems that it is a very straightforward project with a strong lead and vision. The game seems to me, at least as an outsider, something that is really cohesive and coherent. But was it still such a straightforward project, as your all early prototypes, as you say, trace back to 2015. You tried to push to early access in 2017, but then in late 2018 it was not in early access still, and Johnny, it's at that time that you went full on for the project. I think you were working at a mobile video game company at the time. And so the main question is that, seeing the early prototype from 2015 to the Kickstarter campaign in June 2019, did you go through any variation and iteration during that time, or was the vision that clear as we can perceive it today?
I think I can start answering that. I think there's two answers to that question. The first one is the aesthetic has stayed pretty consistent. So what we wanted to do with the feel of the game and the aesthetic of the game has stayed pretty true to itself. The game itself, what the game is, has changed on numerous occasions, and it's especially evolved in situations where we've been able to put it into the hands of the players. And because that's when we saw what everyone was doing with it, like yourself included, because the amount of stuff and the things that you were able to put into these maps is incredible, and we needed to support that basically. And yeah, it's really good that we have Chris around, because he's the one who's going to figure out and has been figuring out how to make that happen.
Yep.
Because it just needs to be incredibly fast for that to be a viable option. So there are things about the game that's stayed true to just our original brainstorming session when we were back when it was working title Tail Dungeon, and when we put out that YouTube video where we were playing. And then there's the actual game, what the game is, and sort of the fact that it ended up being a more of a virtual tabletop with a very gamified aesthetic and feel, has been an evolution. As far as sort of schedule, sort of release and things like that, it's been life and work that's been getting in the way for the most part, and being able to go full time was the way to sort of just make sure that we're making this thing now. Because when you're working in video games, you tend to get pretty obsessed with the different projects you're working on, and for a while there, TaleSpire had to take a back seat to my main job personally.
Yeah, of course.
And that made the project a lot slower. Luckily, progress was being made by the rest of the team during that period of time, so it was still really good. But yeah, so that did something with the timeline for sure.
Yeah, okay, that's very interesting, and something that we can see if we trace back TaleSpire in time through internet is that in November 2016 you did an interview for AT Level that I was really interested in, actually, regarding your substance filters used, which is a niche case of the interview. But awareness for TaleSpire exploded on the internet, because a user did an image group post with all the GIFs and the visual that you had posted for the interview, and today the post has more than 500 impressions or views, so it's kind of crazy. So how did it feel to see a personal dream project become so popular from just one day to another, and with a very keen interest from the public?
Well, I'm not sure how Jason felt about it, but personally, it was really stressful.
Yeah. Same here. It was really exciting to see that, but it became, like I've said before, it was like an opportunity that became a responsibility at that point, and something that was like, okay, yeah, this is real, and we're gonna have to do it now, kind of, no matter what. But it was great validation, man, to see the level of feedback and the love pouring out for what people were seeing, and still to this day, it warms our hearts, man, to see how many people like really enjoy the project. Even people that have gotten their hands on it in this rough kind of early, stages, and people having a great time with it, and seeing, watching people's streams and seeing them play the game and having a great time it's wonderful, man. It's a really good feeling.
On my end, I've always been a huge player of figurine stuff, either Lego for building stuff, or living Heroscape. I was building like massive landscape on the big table of my parents' house. So really, to me, the project directly when I see it quickly encapsulated that feel of playing with like plastic figurines, and that smell and the time passed around the table just building everything. So it really is like a Madeleine de Proust to me. It's something that feels good to just be doing, and that's something I think that will really bring the software to people, something just you can pick up and play for your own enjoyment, and of course for all the virtual tabletop use you can have out of it.
Excellent.
So you kind of answered the question I had regarding the art style. As you said, the vision was really clear since the beginning. And so the question I can subdue from that is that do you play a physical board game, and how do you translate that experience to TaleSpire?
Yeah, so personally, I haven't really played with figurines around the table. So it's, I mean, I played just traditional board games that has figurines in them, but never for pen and paper role-playing games.
Mm-hmm.
It's always been the theater of the mind type of thing. But I always felt like it made sense to do figurines and stuff like that, and it does feel a lot different. As in, playing TaleSpire to me, although being quite biased, obviously, it feels different than playing around the table in some positive ways. And that's also something I haven't quite felt with other digital tools I've tried to use. Although they're really great tools out there, it does feel different, sort of having that, sort of living in that 3D space and sort of seeing all of these things move around, and the feel of just moving things around. That sort of adds to the experience, to me at least. So I'm not sure about Jason, whether or not his experience with the figurines.
Yeah, so I do use figurines and some tiles for the for my tabletop group, and it does feel very, very similar to kind of when we're inside of TaleSpire, and playing inside of TaleSpire, like Johnny was saying, I mean, with the physicality of it, I mean, when you're seeing somebody grabbing their miniature and moving it around, and the way, the feel of it right now, it I don't know, there's a connection there between seeing that miniature move around. It's almost like, it is an extension of somebody, a physical person.
Yeah, truly,
just, and so it does kind of bring you to the table in a sense, and it feels like you're sitting around a table and playing with people because of the way that Johnny was able to kind of program in the feel for the game between the dice and the miniatures and things like that. This has been a project that we've, this is something that I would always, you make something that you would want to play, and that's kind of been the goal. And him and I, for as long as we've been working together, it's kind of, we've never met. We've actually never met in person. Yeah. And so we've never had a chance to play, D&D together at the table or anything like that. And this is kind of, it feels like, because it feels like I'm playing with him, and playing with the other people and folks from the team and stuff like that, almost as much as it feels like you're playing at a table with friends in physical miniatures and tiles.
Yeah.
It's really interesting that we've been able to capture that.
Yeah, one thing that we gathered from my group of playing on TaleSpire is that first there is a new dimension. Like literally there is a third dimension, mostly in height, but discovering that now you can climb walls, see through holes, windows and stuff like that. It's something that you think about when you're playing in the mine or on traditional 2D tabletop like Roll20, but it really changed our way of playing. So it's like right now I'm gonna just climb that thing and see on top, and with that physicality and that third dimension, it started to add a new gameplay and new ways of playing the game. And just as you say, seeing people moving around, throwing dice, just like doing stupid stuff with their figurines, really felt like we were all around goofing around the table. And that is a feeling that's awesome.
That is really it's great that we've been able to capture that.
So that's basically all the questions I had planned. I'm very happy that you answered them. And now you have like free time if you want to shoot out about anything you want to say now. And most of all, thank you for your answers.
Well, first of all, yeah, thank you very much for having us.
Yep.
And I just would also just again want to mention the rest of the team. So Chris, Hannah, Rachel, because they're amazing, and also we have a great community over at Discord, and we have some mods there that needs a shout out because they're doing a great work.
Absolutely, a great job. Man.
And also would like to thank you for
thanks.
just sort of all of the incredible things that you create. Has been an amazing inspiration, and they circulate anytime you post anything. It circulates internally, and we get really motivated to continue developing.
Well,
so
that's
thank
really
you.
Nice.
Yes, thank you.
And normally during that interview, the background video will be a time lapse of the latest old island that you've been able to see.
Nice.
And so that should be interesting for people to hear and see during the interview. One thing I can add for people that don't know it is that TaleSpire is a virtual tabletop currently in closed beta. We hope it will be in early access late 2020 or early 21. No date announced, so no pressure there. And on my end, when this video will be published, I hope to also have a new video for you guys because I'll be releasing a scenario in English for TaleSpire made with a friend, Tolcraft. So there should be a full interesting package for people to discover, and that scenario should also include maps to play either at home if you print them out, or on a virtual tabletop like Roll20 if you just use the flat images. And of course there is a TaleSpire map. You can play the scenario on it. And so that's everything I had to say.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. Yeah, I haven't seen the English version yet, but I had the pleasure of seeing the French version, at least an earlier version of it, and it looks really good.
Yeah, absolutely.
So fantastic work on that.
And I was really glad to have you, both of you.
Thank you.
That was awesome, man. Thank you very much.
Okay, so ciao guys, have a good end of day or a good start of the day, depending.
Yeah, absolutely. You too, man.
Excellent. Thank you.
See ya.
Bye.
So this was the interview of Jason and Johnny, or Ree and Dwarf, from Bouncyrock on TaleSpire. I hope that you like this different format from my channel. Maybe in the future I'll be able to make more interviews on various topics of either Bouncyrock or other members of the community. I'll be happy to do so, or even have podcast or everything. Tell me if you like the video, find it interesting, that'd be really lovely. I do not ask often that, but I really want your feedback on this type of format. I hope that you also enjoyed the time-lapse on the background of the old island. Some slabs are available for you to download from this massive island. Sadly, I cannot share it fully for the moment. And all in all, I wish you a very good day, and I hope you had a really good time.